Is this Josh? Josh, you're up next, right?
Yeah, I'm here. What's going on?
How's it going?
How you doing?
Pretty good. You got a hand for us here, Josh?
You need a setup first.
Yeah, where's this played out of?
So we're in Rivers, Philly.
Ah,
Um,
Rivers, Philly.
yeah. So this is actually the same 1-3 game somebody called in a couple weeks ago. That's like super deep because it's so he didn't specify, but it's not regular 1-3. It's 1-3-6. The $6 is a blind, so it's a triple blind game. So like $12 would be the straddle.
Okay.
It's a time game and it's 2K max buy-in.
Oh wow, 2K. So it's kind of like a Texas game almost, right? Time
Yeah,
game.
it's a
That's great too. What's the time
six. What was it $6 a
per
half hour?
half?
Yeah,
That's a pretty good deal for what's out
yeah,
there nowadays. I got to tell you.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good deal. I mean, this is far from a low stakes game. I'm sure they don't time collect like the game below this, but
No, I
definitely,
like to say it's kind of like it's bigger. It's like big. It's like in between 2.5 and 5.10. Like it's
yeah.
bigger than 2.5, but maybe a little bit smaller than 5.10.
Yeah, that's like a Texas setup. Okay, so 136, 2K max buy-in. Okay.
All right. So, backstory on Villain is he actually is from your neck of the woods. He's like a pro from Boston, and he was
Interesting.
here playing at like Parks and it's on a Monday, so Parks isn't really that busy on Monday. He came to Rivers on that Monday. I could tell he was a pro. He didn't say like, "Hey, I'm a pro," but some of the things he was saying, I could tell he played for a living.
Okay.
And he's a younger Asian guy, and obviously traveling for poker. So that's all I knew about him. I didn't know. I didn't. I'd only played with him for like an hour. So it folds to him. He's in a hijack. He opens to 20, which is pretty standard for the game. It folds over to me. I'm in the small blind, and I have King of Diamonds, King of Clubs.
And how deep are you guys?
2.2K effective.
All right, so out of position, 2.2K, so pretty deep against even a $6. You're what, over 300, well, almost 400 big blinds deep, right? Okay.
Yeah, so I three bet the 105. I normally do 4x out of position, but I had, we're deeper, so it went a little larger.
So three bet to 105. It's interesting that you say that. I remember when I was doing our optimal podcast back in the day, there's some weird things that happen. You're not that deep, but when you get super, super deep, I remember looking at some of these like optimal sims where if you're really, really deep, you're actually not supposed to go super large from out of position because the position of the player went almost like assuming infinite stacks, like 500 big B, maybe 1,000 big BBs plus. I can't remember off the top of my head. The position actually trumps that you want to keep the pot size small. I wouldn't be thinking about that in this spot. I think 105 is fine. Okay, so you go to 105.
Yep, so it folds back to Villain, and he four bets to 300.
Okay. Sounds
So
like you're going to play a out of position pod here with King King.
yeah, so I really don't have any like five bets this deep. I'm pretty much just going to flat anything I continue with because I don't, I'm not really trying to I'm not trying to stuff 2,200 in kings against aces, and that's pretty much all I'm going to get called by. So I'm just going to flat pretty much everything there, even though I'm out of position, and just play accordingly. So I call the four bet.
Yeah, it's hard to really have a five bet range a lot in live setups because you're usually, just dealing with larger sort of sizing and then dealing just not with infinite stack sizes. It's just like one of these things where, the four bet in itself is very, very polar. So if you were to have aces, you block like a ton, right? And the four bet is like very polar, right? Heads up to like aces or a bluff. Maybe sometimes kings. You can see why you would call with aces. Here, kings kind of in between, right? So I can see what you're doing here. So hero calls, and we're at 600 plus, right?
Yep. We
Okay.
off to the flop. Flop is Queen of Diamonds, Seven of Diamonds, Four of Clubs.
Queen of diamonds, seven of diamonds, four of clubs.
Yes.
Now, some people might think right off the top here, oh, well, that's another hand that you don't beat. I would be more concerned here on a queen high board if there was some straggler in the hand. Like, for example, if MP had opened for a raise, cut off or button called, you three bet, and then he four bets, I think there would be much, much more queen queen in his range. Now, I'm not saying that he always wouldn't, that he never has like four bets in position with queen queen. It's just probably this deep. It's going to be, I think, more often a call. Although it is mid position versus small blind, it is another hand you lose to. It's just not glaring like some setups. Okay.
So, so I did think he would four bet queen queen a decent amount just because I'm 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 pretty aggressive pre. So like when I three bet, I mean we don't know each other, but I'm sure he'd seen me three bet a few times, and I think he may have four bet for value of queens. But like you said, he may call sometimes too. But I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I do lose the queens, lose the aces, obviously. So he bet small. He bet 210. I felt like it was pretty much a range bet, not just called.
So MP 210, like a one third. Hero calls. And now we're at 1,010. It's interesting to see the check raises here sometimes. Like at what sizing here, kings with the king of diamonds, do you consider check raising on a board like this? Say he bet 100 or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think because I'm either really ahead or really behind. I think so. Like like I don't really need much protection other than against an ace if I'm winning, and if I'm losing probably pretty badly. So I felt like my hand was pretty much just a call and then see what he does, and kind
The,
of go from there.
the reason why I bring that up is that if you saw like I mean, this in itself is one third is not outrageously small, right? But if you saw some sort of like really, really small bet, and you were say, okay, I'm still not going to check raise. Say he bet 50 or say he bet 100, because a lot of times we teach like a min bet is kind of like a check. So say the guy bet 50 or 100, right? And you just called. But going back to what we just said, we sort of treat it like a check. My question would be, if the flop went check, check, how often would you be betting on a blank? So if you're just calling like the ridiculous bet of 50 or 100, not check raising, are you call leading ever to
Yeah,
like really
I
small
may mix
bet?
in call leads. I
Okay.
definitely if he bet like 10, you mean like if he bet like
50
ten
bucks.
percent pot or
Yeah.
something?
Yeah. Something
Yeah,
like that. Yeah.
yeah, I could see a spot where I would call and lead
Call lead.
on a brick,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
like you said, he bet one third. That was pretty standard.
Yeah. So 1,010 here, it looks like. Or, yep, right. 1,010,
Yeah,
1,020. 1,020. Okay.
2020. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Uh huh.
So the turn's a five of hearts, so it's a brick.
Okay. So turn
Uh,
here is five of hearts. And I will say too, as we got one of our content creators, Nate, in the live chat, one of the probably most common bluffs that you see, like in a
Ace five
sort,
suited.
yes, ace five suited. You took it, yeah, very well, Joe. So you always have to look at the board to see how a five interacts with it. Here it's a pair,
Right.
but if
Thought
this,
about that in the moment, and
mhm,
I thought I thought that on that turn he may check it back a lot because he has showdown now and he like beats Ace King. If I floated the flop to a small bet with Ace King, and so I was definitely interested to see what he did on the five turn because that was really one of the only hands I beat was Ace Five that I would think he's four betting. Maybe Ace Queen, maybe some Ace Queen off as a bluff and some Ace Five suited. But I thought I was losing an Ace King, but I have two kings in my hand, so
right? It's
I was hoping he checked on the turn.
it's one of these things where if someone has ace five here, and let's say that he does continue to bet and you call, and then the river rolls off of five, it's just another hand you lose to. Or if it was like queen seven four six, right, or queen seven four three, right, you would expect like the ace fives to continue to barrel, and then it comes in the one liner. Again, another hand that you lose to containing a five. Sometimes we don't think about that. Okay, so I assume you play and flow and check, right?
Yeah, I checked.
Yep.
And villain bets 550,
So the pot will be right
a
around.
little
It will
over
be right around.
2100.
Yeah, we're about 2,100, and you guys will have about what 12ish left, something like
He
that.
has he has 1135 left.
Yeah. So I mean, you don't. It's not. I'm just trying to figure out. It's not one of these spots where you have to like check jam or fold. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Like with about a half pot size bet left. So I think probably the play here is to call again.
Yeah, so my thought in game was that this is when he took this size. So even though it's half pot, it's really I felt like it was one of those sizes where it could be one of two things. Either committing me, trying to give me like zero point 0.5 SPR going to the river to commit me to if I called the turn call the river. Or sometimes what I see people do is they'll bet like a larger size on the turn with like the threat of going all in on the
Right.
river.
Right.
And if you to just try to get all the folds, so basically the $500 bluff is essentially like they're bluffing for all of it, because you know that the all in is probably coming. And sometimes when people do that, they'll give up when you I guess you call it Fifth Street Chicken, when you call the
Absolutely.
turn.
Absolutely.
They'll give up the river. So
Right.
I really thought it was one of those two things.
Could there also ever be a frequency? I mean, this is probably slight, but could there ever be a frequency where this is an ace queen bet to check back at the end? I would tend to think that that might be a little bit smaller here.
That was another hand I thought would check back river. So ace queen I thought would check back river. I thought a lot of bluffs would give up and check back river.
Mm-hmm.
And the only obviously the only hand that I would be hoping he had is ace king, but I do have the king of diamonds in hand, so he don't have ace king with a flush draw, and I think it's less likely that he's blasting off with just the naked ace king.
Right. Well, and that will also come into play if the river breaks out and you do face a jam, because if he is structuring correctly, there's that he doesn't have that front door, right? That he was going bet,
Right.
which is supposed to be given up though a lot on the front door side. So I assume you call again, right?
Yeah, I call.
All right. So hero calls, and now we add 1100. This will be like 2120. Okay. What do we get for the river?
River is 3 of clubs.
So 3 of clubs on the river. So again, just to recap here, interesting hand. So obviously, hero in the hijack, villain in the hijack to 20, hero 3 bets. You guys are deep here at 136 to 105 with kings, hijack 4 bets to 300, hero calls. Queen of diamonds, 7 of diamonds, 4 of clubs, hero checks, MP bets 210, hero calls. Turns the 5 of hearts, hero checks, MP bets 550, hero calls. They've got about a half pot size bet left. The river's a 3, so it puts a one-liner out there to a 6.
Yeah.
It's a one-liner out there to a 6, and no gnarly 8-9s or anything like that. Like the nuts here would be 6-9, which is probably, or 6-8, excuse me, which is probably not going to be in the guy's range.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, so I assume you check here again.
Yeah, I checked. Really, really, really hoping it went check.
I'm sure, of course, yeah.
And it did not. He went all in
For like 1100.
Yeah, 1135 exactly. I got an exact count like 3 times because I was trying to get a read out of him. Well, it was 1135.
So this is kind of a two-edged sword here when you're playing against who you deem to be a pro in a spot like this. The two-edged sword is that a pro should be able to take ace here for all 3 streets, I would think. Okay. Now, the other side to this, though, is if a pro is properly balanced, he should have some bluffs here, too. Right? So, I mean, you're going to get about 3-1 here. And from an MDF perspective, because he's betting about half the size of the pot, his bluff only needs to work here, 33% of the time, right? So you are supposed to say, like, call down with the top 66% of hands that you arrive here with. But where people go wrong is like they don't really get the whole setup. Like it's a 4-bet pot. So like what hands am I playing like this?
Many hands. Yeah.
Right.
So this is one of the worst hands I arrive here with, I think, because I have ace that I would play the same way, and I have queen that I would play the same way. I wouldn't 5-bet either of those hands. And I have I would have ace king of diamonds maybe, but I mean that's I missed anyway. But like kings is purely a bluff catcher at this point because he's not betting ace queen again on the river. So,
and again, I mean, there's a couple of other things that you might lose to here that are very like slivers, right? Like what other hands get 4-bet like sometime, like very, very small partials, like as Nate is saying in live chat, like a 5-6 suited, something maybe with like 6x of diamonds in it, something like that.
I'll be honest, I didn't think he really. I mean, I had played with him. I mean, it wasn't a. We were maybe an hour and a half into the session. I had saw him 3-bet a couple of times. I had not saw him 4-bet once, and I kind of put myself in his shoes because, like, I mean, he doesn't know me, but I was just thinking how I would look at it if I was playing against another reg somewhere that I didn't know him, and I don't think I would. I think if I was bluffing on that turn, I mean, I would think I'm getting called a lot on this river, and I don't think I would be going balls to the wall with like in a 4-bet pot for 350 big blinds just with like some random like nonsense hand.
Let me ask you what other hands do you have here that call the 4 bet? Is it nines plus? I assume you're going to 3 bet nines, right? Pre.
Yeah, yeah.
So
I mean, I would call the 4 bet probably with I think nines plus maybe. I would fold ace queen off, maybe call ace queen suited, and um,
the reason why I bring that up is because like I think that you're still probably calling with jacks and tens on the turn
yeah.
here.
No, I
So I
don't.
mean,
I don't know if I called. I don't know. I don't know if I. I mean, tens is like. I mean, tens on the turn is like. I mean, I'm. I don't think I'm really. I don't know if I'm calling tens on the turn. I lose to like everything. I don't
well,
know.
I mean, it's almost the same thing as kings, though, right? If he's going to either give up, or I guess you lose to ace queen, right? If he's going to throw in one of those bets with ace queen, some people in live chat saying, "Is this ace queen?" I don't think it's ace queen. I think ace queen
I don't
checks
think
back
he.
a
I
lot.
think he checks back ace
The
queen all
reason
the
why I
time.
was drilling into that was because ace queen beats some hands if the caller does, if Josh calls with jacks and tens. I think, like someone said, I think it's probably pretty close to indifferent here. I wouldn't, it's like one of these ones where if you fold or you call, I really feel like it's kind of similar to the hand that I played against Saya when the king came, when I called her down with ace queen and she had aces. And I went into this whole thing about how the king was a really bad card for me to actually fold on. Much worse. I don't know if you saw that, Josh, than a
I don't
brick
think so.
with ace queen. I lost this pretty big pot to Sai the last time I was on
Side of
Hustler.
bot.
Yes, I the bot. Yeah, and I thought the king was actually a bad card for me to fold on. So I think it's pretty indifferent here. I think it's pretty close.
I thought it was very cool. I tanked like a really long time. I don't tank much. Like I really don't do a whole lot of tanking in poker. But I was in the weeds. But really, I just felt like without the king of diamond, I thought I would call, and with it I would fold. That's what I boiled it down to, because the main hand that I would want him to have is ace king of diamonds. I know it's one combo, but it's like we just don't have a whole lot of hands in this configuration. So
Right, but the only thing I would say about that though that gets confusing though is if you really want to go down optimal land, isn't the front door not supposed to be bluffed here though by him?
yeah, a lot of times a solver would tell you to give up with
Right.
the when you have the suit, but in live poker, it's normally kind of flipped, because to get here this way, like I don't think he's like most people are not just barreling off ace king like that on the queen high board, because I could just have queen queen, like he could literally. That's why I mean even aces, it's just thin value trying to get called by ace queen or kings, but like I really think some people just check back aces, because I could just call down with queen queen and you just value on yourself.
Well, some people, right? Some people, but I think pro should,
Right.
ace a fair amount depending on the combo. When did that happen? What'd you do?
So I folded.
Okay. Did you get a reveal?
So not in the moment, and the hand was kind of like I was thinking about it for like the next hour. So we ended up like playing a couple other hands. We were talking, and then eventually like we had like pizza and stuff at the table, and we were talking about it. And he said he had aces.
Okay. Ace. And then of course the ones that would be, I would say, value bet the most from his end in terms of combos, I think he would want to have the ace of diamonds in his hand, because then you don't have like missed nut flush draws that fold out that you get here. You get here with more value, right? If he has ace with the ace of diamonds.
Right. I would agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for the call, Josh. Appreciate it. Nice fold. Like I said, pretty close to indifferent.
Yeah, it was a tough spot. Thanks, Bart.
All right. Thank you very much.